It was a sweltering afternoon on the edge of a forgotten town, the kind of day when the air itself seemed to weigh heavy with dust and exhaustion. Cars passed by in a blur, their engines humming like a distant storm. And there, on the cracked corner of Maple Street, stood a little girl behind a flimsy cardboard stand that read in shaky letters, "Buy my lemonade, it's to help my sick mommy." Her small hands trembled as she poured from a plastic jug into paper cups, her sunburned cheeks glistening with sweat. She couldn't have been older than 8. Her hair was tied back with a pink ribbon that had long lost its color, and her eyes, deep, grayish blue, carried the quiet weight of someone who had seen far too much. Before the story unfolds, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of compassion, then please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Royal Stories. Your small act can help keep these powerful true-to-life tales alive for many hearts around the world. The girl's name was Lila, and for the last 3 weeks, she had been standing at that same corner every day, from morning till sunset, selling lemonade that was more water than lemon. Her mother, Sarah, lay inside a damp, one-room apartment nearby, too weak to get out of bed. Once, Sarah had been a bright woman with a voice full of laughter, a waitress at the town's only diner who dreamed of opening her own bakery someday. But life had been cruel. After losing her job when the diner closed, bills began to pile up. Then came the illness, something the doctors said could be treated, but only with money she didn't have. They used to live comfortably in a small, neat house near the park. But then came him, the man who promised Sarah love and help, and ended up taking everything instead. His name was Rick, Sarah's ex-boyfriend, a smooth-talking drifter who moved from town to town. When Sarah fell sick, he had offered to handle her finances and take care of things. Within months, her savings were gone, her car sold, and finally, their home lost to unpaid rent. Rick had disappeared without a word, leaving mother and daughter to fend for themselves in a run-down apartment with leaking pipes and a single flickering bulb. Lila never complained. She would mix lemonade from whatever little sugar they had left and carry it in a plastic jug to the corner each morning. Sometimes she sold a few cups, sometimes none. But she always smiled when someone stopped. She'd whisper, "It's for my mommy," and hope the kindness of strangers could fill their empty fridge. One day, as she stood under the fading afternoon sun, the rumble of engines echoed from down the street. It was the kind of sound that made people look twice, deep, growling, powerful. Moments later, 5 large bikers pulled up beside her stand. Their leather jackets bore the emblem, Iron Souls MC, and their shadows stretched long across the pavement. To everyone watching, they were the kind of men you wouldn't want to cross. But when the leader, a tall, broad-shouldered man with gray in his beard and eyes as sharp as steel, took off his helmet, his expression softened the moment he saw the sign. "What's this?" he asked gently, scanning the words written in crayon. Lila looked up nervously, clutching her jug. "It's lemonade, sir," she said softly. "It's to help my sick mommy." The man, whose name was Tank, knelt down so he was at her level. Something about the innocence in her trembling voice broke through the hardened armor of his heart. He handed her a $20 bill and took a tiny sip of the warm lemonade. "Best I ever had," he said with a grin. One by one, the others followed, dropping bills into her small jar until it was nearly full. But Tank noticed the way she kept glancing down the street, toward the direction of her home. "You okay, kid?" he asked. Lila nodded, but her eyes said otherwise. Tank's instincts, sharpened by years of seeing the world's rougher sides, told him there was more to her story. He offered to walk her home. At first, she hesitated, but his kind smile made her trust him. As they approached the peeling blue door of her building, Tank could smell the dampness, the decay, the hopelessness hanging in the air. Inside, Sarah lay motionless, her face pale as paper. When she saw the bikers, she tried to sit up, frightened. But Tank quickly raised his hand in peace. "Ma'am, we're friends," he said softly. Lila explained everything. How her mommy had fallen sick, how a man named Rick had taken all their money and vanished, how she had been selling lemonade just to afford food. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "I trusted him," she whispered. "He took everything." The bikers stood silently for a long moment. Then Tank turned to his brothers. "Nobody does this to a kid," he said. His voice was calm, but beneath it burned the fury of a man who had seen too many good people hurt by the greedy and the cruel. The next day, the Iron Souls spread out across town. They asked questions, made calls, and checked with contacts. Within days, they found him. Rick, living 2 towns over, driving Sarah's old car, spending her savings in bars. When they confronted him, he tried to bluff his way out, but Tank's eyes alone were enough to freeze him. The bikers didn't hurt him, that wasn't their way. But they made sure the local sheriff knew everything, backed with evidence and witness accounts they'd gathered. By the end of the week, Rick was in custody, charged with fraud and theft. Tank returned to Sarah and Lila's apartment with something far more valuable than money: hope. Through their biker network, they raised enough funds to cover Sarah's treatment and move them into a small, clean home. The Iron Souls even built a brand new lemonade stand for Lila, painted bright yellow, with the words, "Lila's Lemon Love," on top. They told her she could keep selling if she wanted, but this time, she wouldn't be doing it alone. The whole town began stopping by her stand, not just for lemonade but for what it represented: the courage of a little girl who refused to give up. Months passed, and Sarah slowly regained her strength. Her laughter returned, her eyes began to shine again, and she started baking small pies to sell at the market. Lila's lemonade stand became a symbol in their community, a reminder that kindness could still heal the cracks in a broken world. And every weekend, Tank and the bikers would visit, roaring down Maple Street on their motorcycles, parking beside the stand, and raising their cups high. To Lila and her mom, they'd say. One quiet evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills and the air turned golden, Lila looked up at her mother. "Mommy," she said softly, "do you think people will always help others like they helped us?" Sarah smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "If they have hearts like those bikers, sweetheart, yes, I think they will." If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and comment below. Your support helps Royal Stories bring more tales of hope, courage, and second chances to life. Speech balloon special request. Comment, "Yellow heart, kindness wins yellow heart," below if you believe that no act of love is ever too small to change a life.